All right, so welcome. This is how to build high performing remote teams for 70% less. I'm Colin Keeley. And
I'm Francisco Pulido.
yeah, and so I guess introduction, we're a staffing and recruiting company focused on Latin America. So I founded the company. Francisco runs sales for us. I started it maybe 3 years ago. I could give a little bit of a background. It's probably helpful. Background buying and building software companies, bought a bunch of small ones, didn't have a ton of money. So I had to hire overseas, tried hiring basically everywhere, had a lot of issues hiring people in different time zones, people in other parts of the world. Kind of stumbled into hiring in our own time zone with someone in Argentina. It went really well. So started hiring more and more down there and eventually built out full teams for our different software companies down there. In that process, told my friends about it. My friends are like, that sounds great. Can you do it for me? And so it morphed from like an internal shared service into a larger service for friends and then readers and followers. And then it got open to everyone. And Francisco has been around for most of it. You started what, like a year and a half ago, 2 years ago with us?
Yeah, yeah, about a year and a half ago. We were three people when we started.
Yeah. Right. And what's your background so people have perspective? And you're in Argentina as well.
Yeah, I'm in Argentina. I lived in Latin America almost my whole life, minus 6 months that I lived in Mexico. So also Latin America. I've done sales for the good part of the last 5 to 6 years, always sold the American market. Most people down here that know English do that. It's a very, very big country for the remote workers hub. So almost everybody that has a bit of common sense, knows English, and knows how to do good work is normally working for a American company.
And so you take sales calls all the time. We get a lot of the same questions. You and I both do. I thought it'd be helpful just to go and run through like our most frequently asked questions. So I'm going
Yeah.
to post this on YouTube, podcast, everything. So hopefully we can be helpful here. So my plan today is kind of go through my experience hiring people for like 15 plus years in different countries, basics of when and how to do it, the roles that we're hiring in the places we're hiring people for. I get that question all the time. Share how others are doing it. So we kind of have a fun view across like a lot of different kind of fast growing startups and older businesses at this point and what they're actively doing and hiring for. And the common mistakes we see over and over again. So if we can avoid those, that'd be great. Anything else you want to cover today or just jump into it?
No, let's just jump into it. I think most of the conversation is going to come in when we start on the questions.
Cool. So like why hire globally at all? Why not just hire everyone in an office? It's really hard if you're just hiring in like a little vicinity, a few miles around you. It's way easier if you're looking at the whole world or more specifically the whole world in our time zone. This is like millions and millions of people like
Yeah.
below the US that are super talented. There's also huge talent shortages in the US. So unemployment is already really low. It's hard to get people to do jobs. If you live anywhere that's not the Bay Area or New York or something, it's hard to find these kind of rare skill sets. And then in the US, we're also just not producing like enough accountants or bookkeepers. People aren't going into it and enough to supply the demands. It's super slow. If you're hired in the US, it could take a couple months minimum. So we generally fill positions in under 21 days, and that's been super useful for people. Cost savings are substantial. I don't like to lead with that. I like to lead with quality, but I think you can get people as good or better than the US employees for like 50 to 70% cheaper generally. It enables you to scale like way faster. I built South completely with Latin American talent. I couldn't have possibly done it in the US if I had to hire like if every marketer cost me 100 grand, I could never really do it that early on. Or like our software companies, we have customer service people basically 24/7. It would never be justified if you had to do that with American employees, but you could just provide a way better service for way cheaper. And we have like 15 people now at South, and
Yeah.
we've only been able
Wow.
to scale so quickly because we could use our own service effectively.
Yeah, it's essentially that.
Cool. So why hire in Latin America? The biggest reason is the shared time zone. No part of Latin America is more than like 2 hours removed from the East Coast. So like we hired a bunch of people in the Philippines. They say they are happy to work night shifts and there's a big culture of it. But then you see their like work quality and really their life quality just degrade over time. And so over time, it's a disaster and their life is like in shambles because they're really not sleeping at all. And so I think it's like morally wrong to do that. I don't like that. I like that you guys sleep well, sleep as well as we do, and live like high quality lives.
Well, that's the thing. Southeast Asia, normally they work the graveyard shift, and it just completely makes their life horrible. Even though they're making a very good living wage in their own country, Culture wise, we're not the same with Latin America or the US. Time zone is just horrible. And all in all, a very good employee for the first 36 months is going to end up pulling off in the next months or years. So it's not really worth it for the long run. That's what we tend to see. That's what most big companies that are looking to transition remote workers from India, Philippines, Africa, even also to Latin America. Those are like the three main problems they tend to have.
Yeah, I think of that as kind of like the first wave of like, I want to outsource, I want to hire remote employees. I'll just give them like the most low level tasks. I'll do customer
Yeah.
service, I'll do virtual assistants. And like, I just need bodies. Give me 10 people in some office in the Philippines. We're kind of the opposite. Like, I would treat everyone as a peer, as an equal. I work with people in the US, I work with people in Latin America, and it's just like, it's all a little icon on Slack or someone in a Zoom meeting, and they're all effectively the same. And the
Yeah.
companies that we see this do really well, they just treat everyone, equally.
Well, we've hired very low level data entry clerks all the way up to COOs. If I'm not wrong, we hired like a COO about 2 to 3 weeks ago. Controllers, a bunch of those. A very, very senior marketing manager also in Puerto Rico. So we're tending to see also American companies doing this transition. Like people near shore or offshore are not only bodies, they're real resources that are going to add to the company and they can even hold very senior positions.
For sure. Yeah, I think maybe for sure on the outside, people think it's virtual assistants, and we like we
Yes.
do occasionally like assistants, but it's more like mid-level and senior talent. So think of skipping the first few years of training and stuff, and someone
Yeah.
that's been doing something for 3 to 5 or many more years with the
Yeah.
COO or the marketing hires. English skills. Francisco's down there. English is amazing. I think it's actually a pretty good proxy for like ambition because it's a second language for most of you guys. And so if
Yeah.
you're learning English, like you want a better life for yourself, you're getting high paid US jobs. So that's kind of a cool niche. And it's also
Yeah.
like I'm in Texas. An accent in Latin America like is not a foreign concept. It's an accent in the Philippines or in India or something. It's kind of a red flag on a phone call, but like a slight Latin accent is pleasant and not uncommon here.
Well, that's the thing. Let's start with the English part. As you said, people like me or maybe our hiring manager or our new marketing guy that we just hired, they're great. They know English. And it's not only that you want to learn English to have better opportunities, it's very accessible to learn these skills down here, even public schools that are free to teach English. And we have a lot of American influence down here. Even movies at the theaters sometimes come out in English and just people just go there and watch them. So it's not hard. It's not a very high entry barrier. You just need to go through it and learn and just speak, get involved with everything.
For sure. And then I would say culturally, this is another place that we kind of ran into issues. So I think you run into more scammy cultures in other parts of the world, in India in particular. You run into it pretty often. In the Philippines, you run into more of like their fear confrontation. So like they'll see an issue, your website's like not loading or something, or you give them some task and they're unable to do it. And they really don't want to bring that to you. It's kind of like they always want to answer with yes. They never want to say like, oh, no, this didn't actually work or I need some help or something. So you run into these issues where it's like, I don't, they're hiding problems from you. And I don't, you guys seem very Americanized, almost identical of like culturally.
Yeah. I wouldn't say we are confrontational, but compared to the Philippines and South Asia, we are. If we see a problem, if we see something's been doing wrong, if we just see something that we can make better, we're going to do it. Why? Because we can. It's as simple as that is. If I see a process that we might been doing wrong, I'm going to go up to the hey, Colin, I think we need to do X, Y, and Z. Or if we don't know what to do, we're going to go out and ask questions like, hey, I don't know how to do this. I'm going to ask, I don't know, X. How can we do it? How can we improve? And that's just the basic work culture around here. We tend to hustle a lot. That's just a normal. That's norm down here.
Yeah, it's, I mean, we couldn't have built the company without it because it's like you're just starting from scratch a few years ago and we've made so many changes. And I would say it probably took us like 2 years to really figure it out. We're in a good position to scale now.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's been definitely game changing. The big question all the time is like, can I get the same quality talent as I can in the US? And so You could speak to this probably better than me, but not just VAs. Top US companies have big offices down there for like
Yeah,
decades now. So these are just a few of them: McKinsey, Deloitte, Amazon, EY, Microsoft. I think you have some friends in some of these.
yeah, I
Speak
do.
to it.
It's it's really funny. I don't live downtown, but I also don't live far away. It's like a 10-15 minute drive. And you go there and you see IBM, you see Oracle, you see Salesforce, you see the big four offices downtown. And of these companies, I have friends that work in them, and they're not servicing the Latin American market. They're all these employees down here are servicing American employees. So these big companies already know this, and they're not hiring remote workers. They're coming down here and building offices and doing everything to service their American clients because it's cheaper and talent is good, and there's no real reason why not to do it. And you see job posts, you see, well, I have a friend that is about to finish his MBA. He actually graduates on Friday, if I'm not wrong. And I went to his college the other day, and I saw Salesforce people just going in and hiring people straight out of the college. It's nuts.
Yeah. And so when you're hiring these people, it's not like their first American job. It's like they've been working for American companies for 5 years or something, and they're just
Yeah,
moving from
it's
Amazon to you.
it's the norm. If English and you just know how to manage yourself in a remote environment, people are going to ask you, why don't you work for American company? It's pretty normal right now.
And then how can they be 70% less? I get a lot of pushback for this online. It's like it's 70% is kind of the peak, maybe 75 or something. And that's
Yeah,
more for like lower level roles, like virtual assistants or something. I would say the ones that converge closest to American salaries is like developers or technical talent. So you could hire
yeah,
like Facebook level developers and they command a premium because they're very, very good and they're aware of it. But yeah, I would say cost of living varies. It's cheaper down there. You could speak to that than it is here. Compensation varies by location, role, and seniority. And then like it's also just changing all the time. Like Argentina's gotten more expensive. So like if you have a certain role you're looking at and kind of wondering what the pricing of it is, just reach out to us and we could give you advice on like compensation structures and things like that as well. Or like if you're looking at a head of sales, there's kind of different tiers of head of sales and kind of what their compensation looks like and kind of what the quality you're looking at getting is it will vary. So our head of recruitment is like really good at kind of breaking those down for you. If you reach out, we'll be happy to share.
yeah. As you said, we can see the peak down below, but we also tend to see non-technical roles, like really, really senior ones up here, being 70% or even more controllers. How much is a really good controller up there, Colin?
I
Like a
haven't
really good
hired
one.
one in a long time. So, oh, yeah, well over 100,000 a year, I would think.
A really good controller down here is about 50K from what we hired. 50,
Yeah.
60, most, like a really, really senior good one. It's
Yeah.
that's crazy.
That's a big one. Accountants and bookkeepers, I'd say, is a pretty popular one that is a substantial discount. And it's like, so you maybe people aren't aware of this. Like, you need a US based accountant to sign off on taxes, but
Yeah.
like the vast majority of accounting work doesn't need that like US based requirement. So you can have like 90% of the work done by someone in Argentina or something, for example. And you just need that senior US person to do a sign off on like, this looks good. So we're helping a lot of financial firms basically outsource in that way.
Yeah. Well, that's what the big four still do down here. They have American CBAs just signing off all the work.
Right. So, we touched on this a few times, but what roles can I hire for IT? These are kind of our four big buckets: IT and engineering. So, a lot of developers, some very senior, finance and accounting, sales and marketing. A lot of like marketing specialists we're seeing. Like, if you really want a really good SEO person or a video editor, or like I think we're hiring a couple YouTube like strategists. It's like a fairly
Yeah.
specific role at the moment. Then a lot of operations and VAs. So even up to the level of like a chief operating officer of a company we've been hiring recently.
Yeah. These roles tend to be your bread and butter. Obviously, we've done some other things. I don't know, the government contractor that they hired this developer, but they needed to be like a visual effect developer for fighter jet simulator or something that really, really niche, really, really specific. And we filled that position in what, under 50 days. It was a bit more of a longer one, but hiring that up in the US for 50K a year, how much would it cost you? Like a lot more and a lot more time.
Yeah, We'll get into this later. It's just a massive time savings. And especially if you're going to do something so niche like that, it's just so
Yeah.
useful to have a bunch of bodies with experience to figure it out for you. I think this is a really important one to talk about. So the most common failure reasons we run into. So time zone mismatch. That's like you hire in the Philippines and they're not awake when you're awake. It's a huge issue. A culture mismatch, other parts of the world for sure. A poor vetting. So I actually have this where people hire through us. They have a great time. It's like, well, I think I could maybe do this myself. And so they just ask their employees for like referrals or hire their friends or family or something. And it just goes really poorly. So we do a lot of the vetting in advance. So you can speak to it, I guess, but like we do background checks, reference checks, internet checks, computer
Yeah, we
checks.
do
Go ahead.
English, grammar, internet speed test, a hardware test, personality test. After that, we interview them. After we interview them, we do background checks and reference checks. So we pretty much kill 99% of all the candidates that come our way. And we just pick like the best ones. And we can do that just because we have so many people that we can filter and start the process on, because we're not just only hiring in our small city. We're doing all of Argentina, all of Chile, all of Uruguay, all of Brazil, all of Colombia, all of Peru. So we have a lot of bodies and we can just be ultra niche. I just think the word is niche, but we can be ultra specific with what you want. And at the end of the day, we're still going to have a few dozen people that are really perfect match for the job.
And by the time it gets presented to a client, it's like a lot of hands have touched it. There's been a lot of eyes on it. They've gone through like real interviews at length and talked through their work experience. So like all that just takes a lot of time and it saves a lot of time if you're hiring someone else to do it, which is really nice. I'd say the most common reason for failure, besides those kind of ones, is like people don't have an onboarding plan. This works whether they're hiring in overseas or locally. It's like you kind of need an onboarding plan. You need to define what success looks like, and then you have to manage the KPIs. KPIs is in like key performance indicators. So it's like if you don't know what success looks like, neither does the new hire. And so they don't know like what their goals really are. So if you define what the goals are and then you could manage to them, it makes everyone happier. And it's like, it's clear whether something's working or not. Otherwise, you're just kind of guessing.
Well, that tends to be the case for smaller companies. They just want to grow. They see the opportunity of, hey, I can hire an SDR for $1,500 a month instead of 5,000. Let's hire him, and he's just going to do magically make us rich. That's not going to happen. You need to help them explain your process. If you don't have a process, help them build one for you. Set KPIs, set expectations, set standards. We're not going to have a problem. I was a Latin person, and most of the people down here, if you set expectations and those expectations come with responsibilities, but those responsibilities come with some type of extra benefit. We're not going to have any problem of meeting those expectations just because you told us what we need to do and we're going to go out and do it without any problem.
Yeah, it's good you said SDR there because that's like the role that fails by far the most. And it's
Yeah.
always like, hey, we're not growing. Let's just hire a salesperson, let them figure it out. They'll grow it for us. They just always fail because they're not set up for success. It's like they don't have any of the processes in place to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's always a frustrating one. Because it's a failure for everyone. It's like a huge waste of time for the company, for the talent, for us. It's not good for anyone.
Yeah. We see like two very different sides of the same coin. We see SDRs with a lot of churn, and then we see SDRs that perform really, really good. We have a client, I don't remember the name right now. They hired like an SDR almost about a year and a half, 2 years ago. And the guy's crushing it. He has a really good salary. He has a lot of bonuses month by month, and the company is really, really happy with them. But you see that they have a structure around him set up for success. If you throw just a lead list and say, hey, just cold call everybody, see if we can get more clients, that normally doesn't end up well.
Yeah, I'd say some of the salespeople that we've seen that are really highly compensated are either in like real estate or private equity,
Yeah.
where these companies have very well tuned like outbound sourcing machines, and then they're compensating on like qualified leads brought in. And so there's been some really good. I kind of come from the holding company or private equity world, and so I had some friends that were customers early on, and they hired these like effectively biz dev people, and they talk with U.S. business owners in like rural places of the U.S. all the time and they're driving leads and taking those first conversations and like building out the deal funnel. It's been really successful.
Yeah.
So how do you pay this talent? So we have two different models, staffing and recruiting. So staffing, you pay us and we pay them. So we take them on our payroll and kind of manage compliance and everything. That's the most common. Otherwise, if you do it yourself, we could set you up with Deal or a different partner where they'll set them up as a contractor and set up payment and everything. I would say how they actually get the money. You could speak to this, but it varies by country. And it's always like that first payment is a little troubleshooting to make sure it gets through and gets out on time and it works well. The one weird thing here is like we get questions from a lot of US companies and you don't deal with American labor laws. You don't have to pay like US payroll taxes and all that stuff. You don't have to give them visas or sponsorships because they're not working in the US. They're working generally at home on their own computers. You have to make sure they're compliant in the local countries. It varies country by country, but you want to make sure you have tight contracts to like if you're going to go the contractor route versus the employee route, you have to have tight contracts to kind of put that relationship in shape. That other thing is like contractor versus employee. I'd say the vast majority are hired as contractors. It differs based on like how to define it, but it's generally someone working at home on their own equipment. If you're making someone come into an office and they have a company provided computer and if especially if they're selling into Latin America, it's a whole different thing and you have to hire them as an employee. And you could set you up with an employer record and do all that stuff, but it's an extra cost.
Yeah.
And most people, even very big companies, stick with the contractor route.
Yeah. Well, Europe and the US, you know mostly about how this works on the client side. For us, it's really simple. We just set up a virtual wallet, set up with US dollars. We pay our own taxes down here. You just send us the money and we work for it. It's very, very simple on our side. And it saves you money. So it's a win-win for everybody.
Yeah. And I guess worth mentioning, we pay people in USD and like salaries are set in USD monthly. So, and then you convert it down there to whatever you want. But
Yeah.
everyone seems very happy with it.
It brings a lot of stability to the table, which is not normally the norm down here in Latin America.
Yeah. So, do you have to hire full time? We get this question often. The best people are looking for full time work. I'd say stability. So, full time and long term is highly sought after. I always say, this is a quote from me, quoting myself, pay half as much and get a quarter of their attention. So, if you're only going to pay someone for half their time, like they have to go find other work to fill their time and they're going to be super distracted. And I like personally, it takes so much of like investment to get someone to be really good and like a super valuable employee. I think it's silly to invest all the time and have like the risk of them just walking away. Like if you're going to invest, make it stable for them and stable for you. And I still like, and it kind of maybe annoys the recruiters that I do this sometimes, but if I have like a graphic design task or something really small, I have like a few hours of work, I still hire an Upwork. And so I recommend if you just have a small project, you don't need someone full time or for a long term, like you could just go to Upwork, hire a few different people and just pay them some amount an hour and do a bunch of graphic design projects. So that's still probably the best option if you're looking part time. But anything to add there?
It's a lot of work for us. It's a lot of work for the clients, going through rounds of interviews, etc. Our process is really not made for these project-based or very, very low amount of work positions. We are really, really, really focused on hiring full-time employees that are gonna end up working for you for a few years at the minimum. We're not built to do that, and that normally doesn't turn out to be good if you're really looking for a really, really good resource.
Yeah, I'd say also if your experience outsourcing to date is only on Upwork, it's like those aren't really the cream of the crop. Those aren't the best people available like in the world. So if you had bad experiences there, I wouldn't throw out the whole idea of outsourcing just from that experience.
Yeah, Upwork is mostly freelancers as well. Freelancers work on their own.
Yeah, freelancers start. I would say it's also like a stepping stone. Like I think
Yeah,
almost all of them would love to just get a full time paid gig. So it's a good way to get like a few hours under your belt.
yeah,
Yeah, US and Latin America have basically the same time zone. They could work in our time zone, of course. Some people are more flexible. Some people want 9 to 5 exactly like whatever the US company's hours are. I would say we are, depends on the role, but quite flexible. People probably shift a couple hours one way or another, whatever is best for them.
yeah. It's working on the Americans' time zones. It's not really an issue since it's not that much of time difference. Your 9 to 5 might be our 10 to 6. It's really, really the same time zone. It's not really an issue when people tell me on the calls, like, it's really important they work on, I know, our time zone. I just always tell them the same thing. It's the same time zone. And even in some countries, Argentina is an example, people start working a bit later in the day. So it ends up being same work office time that it would be up there.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that. You guys have like a different later at night culture. Even if you're in the same time zone
Yeah.
as us, like when do you eat dinner at night? It's way later than we
Like
would.
10:30,
Yeah.
sometimes even 11. Yeah. We have our days tend to be really, really long. Like a normal Thursday for me might be I'm up until 1 in the morning.
But then you sleep in. So you're still getting a proper amount of sleep. Everything's just
Yeah.
like
Yeah,
shifted later.
obviously. Maybe normally I would wake up, maybe I sleep at 1, I wake up at 8, maybe 8:39 if I'm really lazy that day. But nightlife here is really big. So people tend to work a bit into later in the day because then they go out for drinks, they go out to dinner. A lot of people do exercise at night down here, which is I know not pretty common. You go out. Well, I have a really, really nice park like half block away from my house. And when I go out like at 8 in the night, it's already dark and you see people running, people on monkey bars, you see people in the local gym. That's just how it is down here.
It's very different. Yeah. So I mean, I've always been an early person, but I have a young son now, and like I play basketball with a bunch of little older guys, and we play basketball at 7 a.m. 2 days a week. And so it's like a it's normal for us because I've been up for like an hour and a half, but yeah, very different for you guys.
Yeah, no, 7 a.m. early people are getting up at that time down here.
Yeah. So why hire a staffing company? Can you do it yourself? I'd say you definitely can do it yourself if you have a lot of time and you have the experience. If you don't like have on the ground recruiters, I'd say it's going to be hard to source enough people and the quality of people. And then the vetting is just like experience again. And it just takes a lot of time and a lot of like kissing frogs basically to find the good people.
Yeah.
Um, so it avoids the mishires, which are super costly, and people go down that route and you could try it and then come back to us if you want, and saves a ton of time.
Well, I think you said something and you didn't give the importance that it needs. That is having local recruiters. We get sometimes, I'd say some of our best candidates we've hired are people in our personal networks. Mine, the recruiters, the managers, networks. We know these people, or we most of the time know somebody that's worked with this person. So we can just pick up the phone, make a call, and say, "Hey, Jose, I want to hire X. I saw that you were his manager a few years ago. How was he as an employee?" And you can have that conversation, which is something that not most people can do when they're up there and trying to hire somebody down here without anybody on the ground.
Yeah, it would make it very hard for sure. So
Yeah.
that's a great point. I'd also say like if you want to scale up really quickly, this is a really good route, or you have niche expertise that you're looking for. Those kind of things just make it, I would say, doubly hard to try to do it yourself or go your own route. So we have a lot of companies, like if you raise a few $1 million and you're trying to scale up your team pretty quick, that's a great case where you want to hire a staffing company to kind of be your augmented HR role and help you out there. I think this is a question you get pretty often is like, do we manage the hires for you? And so we don't manage them. We don't train them. We don't do the onboarding. I would say like our core competency is like, we find you amazing people. We'll run the payroll for you. We'll check in and kind of advise you on compensation structures and whether it's still market to try to keep everyone happy. So like what we want is for this person to stay with you for years and be like your best employee ever. So we don't want them to leave. We don't want them to be unhappy. We don't want you to be unhappy. So we'll try to do everything we can to make it successful. But like it's kind of your job to treat them as like a local teammate and treat them like any kind of peer. So this isn't like the faceless hiring of like decades ago of I need 10 people in customer service. I'm going to throw them in the office in the Philippines. It's like you're going to interview each one of these people individually, and you're going to give us a thumbs up, thumbs down on the contract, and we're going to send it out. And hopefully they're going to be your long-term hire.
Yeah, that's the thing. We just do the back office part, I'd say, compliance, payroll, etc. And you mentioned something that is managing them and them being happy, which is something I don't think is hard to get, which compared to the Philippines or India, Asia in general, it might be a bit harder to get. Normally, if we are not satisfied with something or before we think that something isn't working properly, we're normally a bit more outspoken about it. Like, hey, this compensation, or hey, I think we're doing this wrong, or hey, I don't like how X manager is treating the team. We're normally gonna say what we think, which can be good. Some people might think it's bad, but for a very good, healthy work culture, I think it adds up.
Yeah, if your goal is to get to the truth and get to like the best outcome, it's great.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want anything hidden from me. I want to be told I'm wrong as often as possible. So everyone's been great. It's been super helpful. Do you want to speak to this? How the process kind of works with us? If
Yeah.
you want to hire.
It's simple, but it just requires a lot of manpower. We try to make it simple so our clients are understands, but we just have a big database full of pre-vetted candidates. I'd say it's around 60,000 right now. We always are filling it up, but we hire people, so it goes up and down in numbers. We just pull a bunch of people, we vet them, again, we test them, then we interview them, then we just pull them through a filter, interview them, background check, references checks, and then send them over. I already mentioned this a bit earlier in the video, but English, internet speed tests, grammar tests, work histories, all in all, just to get the best candidate all around. Because you can hire or find a really very good unicorn, but let's say that they are in Venezuela and they're like caught stuff like 8 hours a day and their internet is really bad. Doesn't matter how good they are. If you're not looking for a async employee, they're not going to work out. That's other factors we like to put into play once we start looking for people, for clients.
Yeah, I would say, and I guess backing up, like this is a very custom process. It's not like we have like I don't know, 100 people waiting to be your virtual assistant. So we try to collect those requirements with you. Well, after you have a meeting with Francisco or a salesperson, you'll meet with your like dedicated recruiter and they're going to try to understand like exactly who your ideal person looks like. And they're going to try to basically do that vetting that you want in the interviews as much as possible. And then they'll share a spreadsheet with you of like those first interviews, kind of their opinions on them and their compensation and all that stuff. So yeah, I would just say it's a very custom process. If you have a specific person you're looking for, just reach out to us so we could give you kind of a quote or a price that we think they're going to be looking for because it varies pretty wildly. I'd say one other thing that we didn't really cover here that's maybe useful is like your opinions on the different countries where you think we're finding the best people nowadays, where we're hiring most of them.
So we have our four top countries right now, which are Argentina, Uruguay, Chile, and Colombia. All around for most of the roles, these are really good. Then we have Brazil and Peru. These countries are big tech hubs for commercial roles, specifically sales guys, marketing people. Argentina, well, HR also. Argentina tends to be a really good country for these. I'd say just because we have a lot of American companies here and the influence on how to work in the American market is very present. So when it comes down to the commercial side or the HR side, we know how to manage it. And then Mexico is really good, but they're a bit more expensive. Puerto Rico also. You have these countries that might bring the same talent or amount of talent to the table, but they're 10, 20, maybe even 30% more expensive than hiring somebody in Argentina, for example. We have some clients that say, I want somebody from Puerto Rico, and I don't care if they're going to cost more. I want somebody from this country, and we can do that, obviously. But if you're looking for all around saving and a price for bug, just let us do our work. We normally know which countries are the best for these roles.
Yeah, I would say most people shouldn't come in with any like preconceived notions of like, I want someone from Colombia specifically or something. I'd say just be open to where the best people are. These are very large countries and like there's good people in all of them.
Yeah.
So we're happy to point you in any direction. And if you want to kick off like a process or you're just curious about pricing or you're just curious to meet people for our process, it's actually free. You don't pay until you find someone you want to hire and then you pay then. So it's free to meet pre-vetted candidates, free to interview, free to do a recruitment process. So if you want to reach out to us, you can reach out to me. You can find me anywhere, but hello@hireinSouth.com is probably the best spot. Or if you want to book a meeting, like a free consultation idea is hireinSouth.com/start is a good spot as well. We'll get you to the right person.
Yeah. I really got nothing else to add. We went over everything, our process, best countries, talent, culture, time zones, everything. I think most people have a general idea of the benefits of hiring in Latin America.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much and take care, everyone.